Hey guys, welcome to the Youth Fitness Podcast. Topics on youth fitness with a focus on doing what's best for kids. Brought to you by the Martin family, the developers of the Brand X Method, and the Athlete Coach Network.
Youth need great coaches now more than ever. Brand X has dedicated themselves to doing what is best for kids for over 2 decades and now offers mentoring, education, programming, and resources in one smart package to empower coaches to efficiently deliver world-class youth programs. Check out their plug-and-play options and join the Brand X family today. You plus Brand X equals youth program success. Hi, we're here for another Youth Fitness podcast. And today we have the honor to have a guest who we have actually known since, I think, 2010 when we first met at CrossFit Manchester, where we gave a course there. His name is Stephan Kinsella. He is the owner of FSM, which is in Bray Ireland, County Wicklow, which is just outside of Dublin. We've also been lucky enough to visit a few times there. And he is not only a Brand X training center, but is a Brand X lab, which there are only 4 of in the world. And we're proud to say that because he puts out some amazing content with kids. He's always learning, going to seminars and finding out more. He's just somebody who wants more knowledge and always applying it. And it's so awesome to see. Also, there was a recent Instagram post that got, I don't even know what we're up to. Last I looked, it was just under 4 million views.
Wow.
Did you know that?
No.
That's the most ever, Stephan.
Yep.
So pretty amazing guy, amazing stuff. And we're here today to learn about a new project that he has. And I think I'd love for you to tell us maybe a little background about you and FSM and then lead into what your new project or one of your new projects.
Yeah, one. Yeah. So firstly, it all started with going to see you guys. Realistically, at the time, I had no intention of coaching kids. And then I seen your course and I was like, maybe I'll go get it. It'll be interesting. And from there, that was it. The 2 days I did with you guys was what literally triggered something in me that I didn't know I had in regards to wanting to help youths and teens and kids become fitter, stronger, faster. And then over the years, obviously working with yourselves and through my own kind of coaching youths and learning from anyone that was willing to drop some knowledge, I kind of found another angle of kind of youth mindset. And that's where I've kind of been spending the last 3 years studying, making sure that I'm not just going to tell kids what to do, but really it's how to ask them the right questions. And I believe now more than ever that it's about asking the right questions. And we live in a society that we've given kids literally everything they can to succeed. And actually they're suffering because of it, because they have everything available to them. They can't function. And they're not functioning properly. And I think we need to create more resilience. I think we need to exercise their mind. Like if we're doing a deadlift or we're doing a squat, we're doing reps. I think with the brain, it's the same thing. We need to train the brain the way we train the body. And I think what we can do with mindset is by helping them. And I've created a little program called The Edge. It's 9 lessons on just how to being a kid or a teenager. And obviously with parents' help, it can help them. There's little activities. It's an ebook. It's going to be a free ebook, actually. So the ebook's going out in January. It's going to be free for anyone who wants it. Because I don't believe that I don't need to profit off it. I just need to, my goal is to help more people. So I think that just that the workbook alone will help parents and teens and kids and navigating into a more functioning lifestyle and be prepared for what life throws at you. I strongly believe that we're harming our kids by giving them everything and not allowing them to experience things that are on the kind of negative side of life. And that's not it in a nutshell, but that's pretty much it.
What are you seeing most of, or the most of, that you feel needs addressing? Is there a certain characteristic that stands out as needing this?
There's a few. The basic one, the simplest one is the obesity rate. I think that's still growing. It's still growing in America. It's still growing in Australia, England, Ireland, the Western world. It's still getting worse. It's not getting better. We've more gyms, we've more sports, we've more everything, and that's still getting worse. Type 2 diabetes in young kids, which is it's not genetics. This is abuse. I think that's abuse of a child. If you have an 8-year-old, 9-year-old that gets type 2 diabetes because it was, and I think there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression. We know the suicide rate in young men has, it used to be like 35 plus. Now that's dropped so the 35 plus has stalled itself in the growth of that. But the suicide rate in young men between the ages of 15 and 30 is growing. So we've everything out there for kids and teens to excel, but yet we're getting worse kids. We're kids that can't handle stuff. And one of the things I've noticed in my gym is we've got exceptional athletes that are afraid to step on a competition floor or put themselves out there of the fear of not being perfect. And we never teach them. They just don't want to get it wrong. So they rather, well, I'm not going to do it in case I do it wrong, versus I'm going to do it in the hopes that I do it right. And I think all of those it's coming from all those different angles. It's not just one approach. And we're not dealing with it. Schools aren't dealing with it. I don't think therapy is dealing with it properly. That book by Abigail Schreier, Bad Therapy, I thought was a very insightful. And I think there's a lot to say for talking about if something bad happens to you, the question should be, what are we going to do about it now? Not let's keep talking about the thing that happened to you. I think that's a really strong and powerful question to help kids overcome adversity. So I think there's a multiple things. The lowest hanging fruit to fix all of that is strength training, because it's adversity, but controlled. It's controlled adversity. And if you understand that doing a hard thing, like learning how to do a movement pattern, then adding a weight to it, or doing a workout or a mile run and try and get faster, that is building that like resilience, that adversity into a child. And that helps. I think exercise is the answer for most of it. But also, if we can add the mindset thing, it's gonna help in a much bigger way. But again, there's so many different avenues where these kids are being, I think, falling short or being let to fall short is the massive problem. And if we don't fix it, we're going to end up with, we already have a lot of problems with our kids and teens. We're going to end up with a pandemic of kids that can't function. And that is just not a world where I want my son and my daughter to grow up in.
I think that as far back as 2010, when we first met, we were seeing bits and pieces of these things. And one of the things I think that's happened is that we've normalized these things that are causing the problems for our kids as part of just this is the way our society thinks. If I go back to 2010, I remember speaking about the obesity epidemic and type 2 diabetes, and that we were starting to call it type 2 diabetes when in essence it had always been called adult onset diabetes. It was called adult onset diabetes because it took so long to have bad habits and bad eating to cause the type 2 diabetes. And we were starting to see it roll down into the younger and younger kids, which they were eating poorly and not moving enough. And now it's just normalized. You don't ever hear it called adult onset diabetes anymore because children get it. And then I also remember that we talked a lot about how the gym was a safe environment. It was an easy place for kids to learn life lessons. So you can fail a deadlift and there's no consequences to that. Where outside of the gym, failing sometimes becomes this big, huge mountain that a child doesn't want to have this happen to them. So that, I'm afraid to fail outside of the gym. But if we can learn to fail forward in the gym, if we can learn to challenge ourselves, or kids can learn to challenge themselves and become less fearful of failing in the challenge, that strengthens them. I think you're right.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that, and like you said, like if a kid fails a deadlift, they don't fail. The coach goes up and goes, "He didn't brace hard enough. We'll get it next time, maybe a few weeks, but it's you're bracing slightly off. We're gonna fix that." They straight away get given the feedback as in, "Yes, it didn't happen today, but we're going to get there. We know what went wrong." Versus, as you said, outside of it, it's a failure. It wasn't a failure; it was a learning curve, and I think failure is a really important part of life. But yeah, that's why the gym is so important, and it works so well for kids that they're constantly failing a movement through
Right.
bad patterns and learning. And then like that guy you had, he ended up becoming a power lifter, but you had to squat to a chair. He's an adult now, I'm assuming, but like you had videos on him.
Yeah, I think it was Cole.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And like from where he started to where he ended up, like how many times did he fail in the gym? But then he had you guys supporting him every time something went off. It was like, yeah, that's okay. It's okay to have for that to happen. So we're just gonna now tweak it, and then we'll take another step forward. And that is the youth, and that is the what we need to be doing more with kids on at every level in regards to function, movement, nutrition, mindset.
Without failure, there can't be growth. So, and one of the things you just mentioned was that we, as a kind of a society, have given all the tools of made everything easy for kids as they kind of come through. So grow up. So the gym is a great place to present challenges that kids have to learn from, grow from, and that they don't just automatically kind of walk through.
That's one of the other reasons why I love the gym is like you can't just go, "Hey, I want to deadlift 225 pounds or 100 kilos." You have to start with the bar and you have to work. You can't just jump to it. You have to put in the work. Kids have to see that you have to start from here, and then over the course of maybe a year, maybe 2, 3 years, then you can get to that number. But it's going to require delayed gratification, a lot of time. And I think that's why I think it's one of the life lessons that a lot of people need, because everything now is so instant. We want it now, we want it today, we wanted it yesterday. And we go, well, in the gym, it's the only environment where you can't cheat that.
Perseverance.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had that up in our gym for years. It came out of the martial arts program way in the beginning, but it applies to everything, really.
It's also the gym is also the only place where the effort is equitable. Like when you work, when you put the work in the gym, there will be reward. You can go to work, your job. You can put all the work in, and the boss's nephew is next to you, and he gets promoted or she gets promoted.
Yeah.
But in the gym, if you put work in, you will get results. And that lesson of I worked hard, I got results, that can come reach out beyond the gym.
I think also it brings up the whole environment of trust and the gym being a safe place, and great coaches being able to create an environment that allow for the kids to feel completely safe in failing. It's not an Instagram post. Look at this kid fail, right? That doesn't happen. Nobody's putting up stories about it. So they feel safer maybe than out in the general world in the gym environment, or should. There's respect, there's dignity, there's everybody's going through something together, which is a community feeling of nobody's going to persecute me. And I think that's a real key to making them feel like this is a journey they can handle without fear.
Yeah. And I suppose I double down on what you just said. And it's like, if you know that, like, it's like that saying is like, if you know that no matter what happens, you'll be okay? Would you risk everyone, not like 9 times out of 10, everyone goes, yeah, if I know that if I fail, it's okay and nothing really bad's going to happen, I'd risk it all the time. And I think that that's an environment that's been created in like Brand X gyms at FSM is like obviously FSM is one of them. So we've created that environment where kids know it's okay to mess up. It's okay to, because that's part of life. You have to learn these things. But if you're meant to be perfect all the time and if you don't believe you're perfect, you're not going to try and challenge yourself or do anything because of the fear of letting someone else down or failing. It's I really, really think that that's just such a we've unintentionally created that in our youths over generations. Parents have, schools have, society has, and now we're trying to kind of triage the consequences by getting kids to do hard things.
True. I see you doing lots of outdoor activity too. And that leads me to think about organic learning in organic environments and challenges and being able to fail out there too, not on a spectator-based sport field, but on the playing, and I mean just like organically moving, or we're going to give ourselves a challenge together as a little community. How do you see that playing into what you're doing?
Well, so yeah, like last year we did the Endure 16, so we made all our teens, well, most of our teens and kids, most of our teens, do a 16-hour test of you're going to exercise and move your body for 16 hours, and we're not going to stop. It's for food and breaks and stuff. But they work from 5 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night, and they were rewarded with some pizza. If they wanted to quit, they had to pay €50 to get out. And most of them said it. They didn't want to pay €50, and that's why they stayed in. Imagine that, €50. I'll have to increase the price next year because of inflation. But we make our younger kids climb mountains and hold weights when they climb mountains. And people are like, oh, it's amazing. That's so hard. Or that it's like, it's possible. I think we treat all our kids and teens with kid gloves, and they're stronger than we think. And I think when we expose them to nature more, rain, exercise, all that outdoor stuff, then they realize it's amazing. Like half our kids go, I never want to do that again. 4 or 5 days later, when's the next one? Because it doesn't matter who it is. When you do something that you know that no one else has done, or it was so hard and you completed it, there's a different person, the person that's in there that's dying to come out and be the best version of yourself. They need you to do all that stuff so you can be created, they can be created and come out and be that person. And I think that is something that we should do. We should challenge our kids aggressively challenge them, obviously in a safe environment. But yeah, like we had 2 of our teens do our 24-hour event last May. They asked, one was 17, 2 of them one was 16, one 17. And they said, I said, you need your permission from your parents. If they say it's okay. And they won it. They bet all the adults. They exercised for 24 hours straight.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So I took all the credit because I trained them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was the cold Irish Sea involved in this one?
No, not in that one. But they would have. So what they completed is one of them did 55-kilometer run. They walked over a ton of weight with sandbags. They did 650 push-ups, 650 calories on a machine. They did over 650 pull-ups, strict, no tipping, just strict, in a 24-hour time frame.
It's fantastic.
That's amazing.
And it's like, why not? And I when someone says, oh, you couldn't do that, or why would you do that? I said, well, why wouldn't you? And now we have more teens asking, can they do this year's one? And it's like, well, yeah, like if you think you can, let's have a go. If you have to stop, you have to stop. But I'd rather you attempt it and then go like, I'm done, versus sitting on the fence, because you don't get anywhere in life sitting on the fence. Nothing happens. It's not a very interesting life. I don't think it's an interesting life. So if I want to build a stronger generation, like I always say, is I need to test these kids. I need to push them. I need to get them outside their comfort zone. And it doesn't have to be something extreme. It could be simple as running the first ever mile. But it's getting them to do that. And I do, like Mikki said, one of the things I do think is like getting them outside, because a lot of them don't go outside. They're chauffeured from venue to venue. They're not going into the hills or the climbing. They're getting into the water. And the gas thing was, when we did the water stuff, that was the thing they loved the most. Getting in the water 5 a.m. in the RC. I was like, yeah. But that's what they loved the most. I was like, okay, they're like, can we do that more? I was like, yeah, absolutely, we can do that more.
I'm interested in what the kids thought about competing with adults. I remember we ran a powerlifting meet at our gym, and we did it. We was inner gym meet, and we challenged all the other gyms in our town to come in and meet. The person who won the meet was Keegan. I think he was 22 years old. Then there was somebody from one of the other gyms, and then third place, fourth place, fifth place, sixth place were all 16-year-old boys that were in our gym. And I remember it didn't dawn on them until we had a discussion that, like, look, you're competing against adults, and you came in at the top of the group, and I can remember it didn't dawn on them until we actually had that discussion that of what they had accomplished. And so I'm wondering what were your kids' reactions to competing with adults and for that 24-hour period and doing well?
So like they thought, like, the one was very confident that he was going to win. The other one just thought he could win, because they didn't see the problem with it. They're like, well, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Like, they knew they were going to beat most of the guys in. There was one or two guys you're like, okay, maybe these guys got it. But we're dumb. We're dumb adults. We went out too hard. We didn't stick to any plans, and then we start suffering. And they were just like, what? They're fitter, they're stronger. They were eating nutrition right. We weren't. We were doing what we wanted to. Like, we were silly. Like, it's like you say, is like they can go toe to toe. It's to a certain extent, like, but the most an adult got was 11 rounds. The teens got 13. Like 2 full rounds. It takes an hour and 45 minutes to complete a round. So they were well over 3 hours ahead of faster than us. Like, that's substantial. And they could have kept going. If I said, right, if you get 13 rounds, you have to do a 14 round, they would have done another 4. Because afterwards they were sitting there. They were tired. And then the only 2 people that were not like sore, like joints or something wrong with them was the 2 teenagers. Mm-hmm. Everyone else.
It's funny when I mentor some of the gyms, they'll tell me, well, I've got these kids who are exceptional athletes, and I feel like we should move them to the adult class. And I always saying to them, well, you're not properly challenging them in the teen class, because at least in a lot of the teen classes that we work with, sounds like yours as well, that stepping into the adult class would be kind of like a step down. Like,
yeah,
I'm going to step down now to work with the adults.
That's true. We moved the teen up. He turned 18, and he within 2 weeks he asked to come back down.
Yeah.
He just says we're not getting challenged. Like, he goes, in nothing against the program, but I much prefer what we're doing in teens. And we were like, sure, you're still a teenager, so yeah, you're still in school, so yeah, you can come back down.
We had that experience with the kids who went off to college and would come back holidays and summers, and they never came to the adult class. They went back to the teen class.
Yeah.
So that intrigued us for many years, that was their way of thinking about it.
So tell us a little bit about the Edge book that you're going to be producing. What will a coach get from reading that book?
The ebook itself is just it's really just designed. There's 9 lessons. Each lesson explains what it is, and then it gives the teen or the kid an activity to follow for either a task orientated thing, or it could be for 14 days or 30 days. And it's just It's really just it asks questions. And like I said earlier, I believe that the answer to everything for kids is to ask the question. They need to figure it out. What the problem that's happened is we've told them exactly what needs to happen. And we have to allow them to figure stuff out. Like, for example, one of the questions I posed to our teens on the weekend was, if you were to meet your friends today for the first time, how many of them would still be your friend? And they were quite surprised, saying most of them, half of them wouldn't hang around with the people that they grew up hanging around. It's just because they've been together for so long. I said, so your peer group is a big thing, and changing that. And I think those little lessons, or understanding that it's okay to want more for yourself, is a huge life lesson.
We talk a lot about movement gaps, and movement gaps are lack of learning how to move correctly. They come from lack of play. They come from lack of exposure and experimentation. And so you'll see a kid who can't initiate a jump with 2 feet. They simply can't. And it's not because he's physically unable, but he is neurologically not taught himself how to do it. And the only way to learn to do those things is to take a step back and expose them and make them challenge them and make them learn through the movement. Mikki is coined the phrase of the
Psychosocial gaps.
Psychosocial gaps.
We're
Yes.
really that just what you're talking about, that now is becoming as prevalent. I want to use a more tragic term, but as prevalent as the fact that in 2012, when we started to notice that kids couldn't initiate a broad jump and land with feet simultaneously moving, that's when we noticed it. That's now almost 13 years ago. And it's taken until this year when we were able to say, wait a minute, this whole mental health thing that now people have been talking about post-pandemic, so I'd say maybe 3 or 4 years, what that is psychosocial gaps that kids now have. So it's a lack of experience in some cases. It's lack of maybe just as a society, as you've said, that there are things that are happening that we're inadvertently causing our kids not to experience, but it's having tragic results for them. So
They're less resilient.
They're far less resilient.
Less willing to take risks.
Risk taking is a
And I
huge
think,
thing with
I think
employers.
it's important to kind of point out that for me, what I see as a parallel there between the way we go about addressing movement gaps to the way Stephan is addressing this psychosocial gap that you are talking about. That,
Yes.
Helping the child really experiment with the answers to the questions that you're asking. Like, what really struggle through those things, which, that's what we saw in 2012 is people would stop struggling with the movements to learn them because they weren't playing outside, they weren't doing those things. And then it extended to the social side of the equation as well.
And then more youth were experiencing that negative side of it than the positive.
Right.
So we'd have more kids come in who couldn't jump and land simultaneously. Now we have more kids come in who are experiencing some sort of anxiety or inability to take risks or trying anything novel for all the reasons you're talking about.
Yeah, and I don't think it wasn't done intentionally. We weren't trying to do this. Parents and schools aren't trying to oh well, if you're scared, you don't have to do it. Sometimes you do. You have to fall. You have to have your heart broken. Understand what love is. If you have it broken, you'll understand if you find love. You have to. We set a society where we only want them to feel amazing all the time. If you feel amazing all the time, it can't happen. I actually had this conversation with my son. He goes, "It wouldn't be great to have Christmas Day every day." I said, "You'd be bored. It wouldn't be special." So if you're trying to make kids feel happy all the time, they don't feel anything. They become numb to it. They have to be sad. They have to be anxious. They have to feel depressed at a moment in time because something made them sad. They have to understand death. They have to understand hard work. They have to understand that life, you have to do hard things for yourself. I'm not always going to be there for my kids. I need to make sure that they're able to do it. If I don't, if I try and protect them now, I'm going to end up with a child that can't function later. So my job is to be a parent, not a friend, a parent, and raise them. And sometimes that means I have to let them do things. And I don't want my son or daughter to get hurt, but sometimes I have to let them do things that will hurt them. And the best example, my son did a jiu-jitsu competition and he lost a few matches. I'm very upset. Then I was showing him, I was like, look at all the people that lose here. Everyone got upset. Because, yeah, you're in a fight and you lost. It's fair enough. But you also won some fights. But like the father of me wanted him like, oh, well, like you don't have to do the last two matches. But then we said, no, we'll do it. And guess what? He ended up coming third and he got his first medal and he was chuffed. But that experience of he had a roller coaster of emotions that day, nerves, anxiety, he was sad, he was angry, he was elated. That whole day has added another layer of character to him to be better. And if we don't allow our kids to do those things, then we're the ones that are going to have to like your kid's going to not leave the house. They're living with you till the day you're gone, and then they'll just stay in your house. My son's out at 18; he's gone. My daughter, you probably let her stay longer. I don't know. Be softy for her. But like we have to let them figure all that out. So all we can do is like, well, what are you going to do from it now? What have you learned? How can we move forward from it? And again, all that is all I'm doing is I'm going to keep asking questions. And then you come up with the answer, and then we go, is that I try not to offer advice, try not to offer an opinion, and be good with questions. And if you ask the questions, they'll figure it out. If they figure it out, they'll buy in better and they'll do more. They're willing to do more, willing to risk more, and willing to be better. And I think every parent on the planet wants their child to be a better version of them. I've never met someone that wants your child to be lesser version. So all my faults, I want my child to be better, but he might have to experience some of the things that I've done badly so he can learn himself and do it any other way. Well, I don't believe it can be done any other way. Well, it hasn't been shown to me that it can be done another way.
I love the asking the questions because it gives them autonomy.
Yes.
It doesn't prompt necessarily. It sounds like you're very careful about what you ask. So it's not prompting a feeling or an observation or anything. It's just allowing them to decide, how do I feel about this? And what do I say?
It's the parallel to a movement problem.
Yeah,
Get
that's
over
interesting.
Get over this wall. I don't care how you do it. Give it a shot. Give it a shot. Tell me what you do about it differently next time.
Yeah, exercise your brain.
Yeah, exercise your brain.
That's I believe. And if you had to get over the wall 10 times, I bet you by fifth and sixth time attempt, he's finding efficiency in it naturally. Yeah. Without any coaching, he'd naturally find efficiency through it. It's allowing a child to take or a youth to take ownership. And I know at a younger age, it might be slightly different. You might approach it slightly differently, but you have to be able to take ownership. And so if you something bad or you did something bad or something bad happened, it's irregardless of what happened. You can't physically change it. And we can't undo what happened. It's you now take ownership, right? That's happened to you. What are you now going to do about it? Will you allow this to define you in a negative way, or will you take action to make sure it never happens again, or you can help people avoid that happening, or you're going to allow that be the catalyst to be better than you've ever been? That's the way forward versus let's just keep talking about that thing that was sad or the thing that happened to you, because I don't think that's ever a good thing. Like, and we notice if we get kids to move around and jump around, like in free play and stuff like that, their energy goes up. If we sat them down for 20 minutes at the start of every class and talked about everything to do with strength, they'd be bored. They wouldn't have any interest. We got to create energy in them. And we only do that by focusing on what we can do to move forward. If we always focus on the thing that happened, then they end up stuck.
Also, stress and BDNF are highly connected, right? So we want to not have stressful situations, we want it to be less so that we can make all those neurological connections, both physically and emotionally, as best as we can. Take that opportunity by reducing stress. And I think the way that you're approaching how you're working with them definitely does that.
Yeah, it all comes back to like getting them to lift weights. Like if I had a magic wand, if I had a magic wand, every school on the planet would have mandatory strength and conditioning classes. Mandatory, not even optional. Every child would have to do it. Because I know that I've never met a kid that was upset from being stronger. I've never seen it. Oh, I'm too strong today. I'm very upset with myself. No, you never, ever hear it, ever. We know it works. We know it works, but yet for some reason we're still fighting. Should kids do these type of things? It's like it's the easiest mental health remedy. I know it won't fix everything. I know some people need specific help. I'm not saying that we can solve everything with it, but we can help the world be better by getting them to do strength training. Hands down.
Absolutely. All in, as you said.
Yeah, we're all in for that. Stephan, can you tell us about another project that you're working on for 2025?
What's coming up in 2025?
So we have the Edge, which will be the ebook that goes out, and then we might be doing some online courses where I'll take a block of kids for 8 weeks on a Zoom call, and we'll kind of break down, we'll kind of track how they can become better. The second one is the Athlete Academy, which Coach Alex, who was a teenager with us, is now the head youth coach at FSM. He's going to be doing more sport specific, and then in September we are running the, as far as I'm aware, the first youth coach summit in Europe, where we will be having the likes of yourselves and 8 other guest speakers come to not FSM, the Glenview Hotel, beautiful hotel in Wicklow, and we're going to run hopefully 130 coaches and parents and anyone that wants to learn from the best in the world. And that is my big, scary, don't know if I should, but I'm trying to do it in any way goal for 2025.
Oh, I think it sounds fantastic. We're honored to come and be a part of that.
And like with that, we're not only going to, because obviously like myself will be talking, you'll be talking, but we have people that are going to be invested in mindset of kids and kids with issues, where it's youth, it's a youth summit. It's to help kids from all aspects. It's not just the strength stuff, which obviously that's what our jam is. That's us. But we're getting people from sporting backgrounds. We have one of our teens who was a kid and now a teen and qualified Bandits coach is going to talk about her impact of impacting others. So the impact of what we were able to do with her has allowed her to impact others. And she's going to have a little like spot there. And I think I've been sitting on this for 2-3 years and I was scared to do it until I went, right, let's just go do it. So this is the big thing. And I used one for one of the first people that I asked. And I was like, I'll ask them. It's most likely not going to happen. And he straight away said, yeah. I was like, okay, well, if they're coming, definitely. And then I said, I threw it out to Sam, hey, I know it's a bit of a stretch, but if you wanted to come to Ireland next September, and she goes, I'm there. I'm like, oh, 2 for 2. All right, let's see. And everyone I asked, and there's still more people I'd like to ask, but we just won't have enough time on the day. And then we just like, how can you impact more people? You need more people on board with you doing what you're doing. And I think that this is the catalyst to get the youth strength and conditioning back up and running in Ireland, like much better than it used to be. And we know a lot of gyms stopped because of the insurance side of things. But I think we have that. I'm pretty sure we have that covered now. And then just spreading it across the world, like you guys doing in America, Sam's in Australia, Chris up in Sweden, and yeah, it's just we all come together, we all share our knowledge, take it away, we impact more kids, we build stronger generation. Like unless you hate kids, why wouldn't you want to be a part of that? You know what
We
I
did.
mean?
I have to give a shout out to number 4, or I don't want to call him number 4, but one of the 4 of the labs is Dan Quisenberry in Tennessee.
Yes. And I asked Dan, I did send a message to Dan, but obviously it's September, school, college. He said, most likely no, don't rule me out yet. And I was like, but I knew because September and the start of school and all, it could be difficult for him. But yeah, I think we have a good lineup. We have a mini panel of just female, either coaches or athletes, which I think is really cool. And like I said, it's like I've been to summits where like I've been to your courses in person. I've always found in person courses the best. You guys are going to be there, like, and then we have like it's just yeah, it's the catalyst to like go to the next level of help, like impact 1 million people through fitness is one of my goals. This will definitely help that, because if I help anyone and help any coach be better to help their clients, then that's how that works. I can't work with 1 million people individually. I can work with people that can help more people, and if I can bring people together and we can do this as a yearly thing, then yeah, like why did I hold off so long? Again, it's selfish of me not to try and do this.
I think it's an amazing task that you've taken on, and I love it. I think it's needed for sure.
Stephen, before you go, I want to ask you one question. And the question is, what is one question, since you've been on so many podcasts and you've done public speaking, what is one question that nobody's ever asked you that you always wanted someone to ask?
I would say it's probably not. I bet you I'll think of something later on tonight of like what I should have said. Why is it so important for you to help create a stronger generation? I don't think I've ever been asked that question. Why is it so important for me? There's a lot of other ways that I can make money and live a nice life coaching deconditioned adults. Why is it so important for me to help and impact kids and teens? I generally believe it's what I was put on the planet to do.
All of those links that or topics we talked about, I will be in the show notes, Stephen. So I'll get with you to put those together to make sure we're sending people to the right place after they listen today. And man, we thank you for your time. We know how busy you are and how hard it was to squeeze this in. And I think we had 2 or 3 attempts to get this podcast together. And
Yeah.
one time our service didn't work, and I think we barely made it by the skin of our teeth today. So
I remember I was on a call like 2 hours before it was meant to even happen at one of them. And I got the timing wrong, and I'm like, okay, fair enough, yeah. But yeah, no, like it's always great to get on and chat with you guys. Like again, I hold you in the highest regard. You've helped me stay focused on my passion, which is helping youths. In all fairness, if I never went to Manchester, I doubt I'd be focusing on what I'm focusing on now. And I don't know how my life could be better if I wasn't doing what I'm doing with kids and teens at the moment and helping them become stronger. So like a lot of it is you guys making us do silly workouts and having your kids whoop us.
Thank you, Stephen. That's very kind of you to say. We're very impressed with what you're doing and so happy we could get together and talk today.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Athlete Coach Network, a new connection-based training platform that breaks down regional barriers and connects coaches and athletes anytime, anywhere. You're an athlete and love to push yourself. Who's guiding you? As an athlete, you can filter and search our library to find the perfect coach, or sign up for a membership to get video feedback and comments from our coaches all over the world. As a coach, you can set up your profile and advertise your credentials, set your own price for video reviews or direct messaging to ensure your rates reflects the value of your time. Welcome to the Athlete Coach Network, and welcome to the future of sports coaching.
That was the Youth Fitness Podcast, topics on youth fitness with a focus on doing what's best for kids. brought to you by the Martin family, the developers of the Brand X Method and the Athlete Coach Network. We hope you guys enjoyed that episode and you listen for more.